My name is Silvester Henderson. I am president and CEO of Professor for Life Incorporated. And I'm also full-time music professor and chair at Los Medanos College, located in Pittsburgh, California. I am so honored this evening to interview a young man who is not only advocate for higher education, but he is a well-known pastor, entertainer, professional, artistic promoter, musician, and just all-around good person. This person is with the name Mr. Jonathan DeCuir. Welcome.
Hello, Professor. How are you doing today?
Doing fine. Pastor DeCuir, Mr. DeCuir. You tell me, which one should I call you?
Either one of them is fine.
Okay. I may go back and forth. Sometime I may call you Pastor DeCuir. I may call you CEO DeCuir. Okay. But I'm going to ask you, can you please introduce yourself to our digital media academic world?
Sure. My name is Jonathan DeCuir. I am the executive pastor now at Victory Bible Church. Will be the senior pastor starting January. That's a church in Pasadena. I am the CEO of SEP Music, and also have a coaching business called Session 5, where we help people actually discover their purpose, map it out, and actually act on it. I do a lot of things in our community. I work a lot with nonprofits in our community, specifically in Northwest Pasadena, affecting Black and Brown children specifically. So that's like a quick summary of, I think, all the stuff that I do.
And did you leave off the fact that you're this famous musician that plays with all of these well-known artists as well?
Yeah, I also play a little bit. No, I play presently. I'm in Andrew Day's band. Presently, that's my primary thing. But I do a lot of production and producing with SEP Music quite often.
Wow. Can you describe your work and obligations as a pastor, an entertainment professional, an artistic promoter, a musician, and an advocate for higher education? Explain to our digital media academic world what are those different jobs? So many different tasks. They all interlock with one another.
Yeah, I'll start with the pastor one. As a pastor, my obligation is to support our membership. We have approximately about 600 members. And so it has to do with every Sunday morning in terms of studying to present the word on Sunday mornings. It also includes the budget for the church, all the programming for the church. It also includes like future programming, capital campaigns. It also includes hospital visits. It also includes funeral services. It also includes counseling. So that kind of covers the pastoring piece of it. On the musician level, that's mainly that's mostly spot dates for me now. Spot dates with Andrea. So that's some rehearsals, some practice, and then actual performance. From a production standpoint, musically, I have a studio in North Hollywood, but I have a partner that works with me that named Kevin Randolph. He does a lot of the producing pieces along with me. So I'm at the studio probably twice a week. Artists come in. When they come in, we actually produce the music from scratch most of the time, where we help them write the song if they haven't written a song. If they have written a song, then we put the music to the actually song that they have written. That takes about a couple days to do, and then we mix, we master. We help them put it out on whatever platform they choose, TuneCore, DistroKid, any of those. Or if they have a deal with a record label that's putting the song out. So we go all out on that piece. And so that's the music side of things. In terms of the Session 5 piece, the coaching business side of things, every month I do a coaching call with about 15 to 20 people. It's called Visionators, and I have all book writers on there. I have entrepreneurs who have their own businesses on there. From I have medical practitioners on there, to people who are aspiring artists and people that have different dreams and visions for their life. And we basically do a accountability coaching call every single month. And we also give resources. We connect resources to dreams, help people who have the dream, but they don't have the connections. Those are all the different things that I do. But to answer your question, how do they all fall in line with each other? I actually look at all those things as just one thing. I think by nature, intuitively, I think my main gifting is being able to help people to discover and see certain things. And I notice that's what I'm doing at each one, whether it's community, music, or preaching. I'm pretty much doing the same thing in every genre, where I'm pretty much helping people to discover, where they are and where they want to go. And that's kind of how I see everything, including music and preaching and all things.
And how does that sort of interlock with your support of students of color, especially Black and brown students, to support them in terms of getting into college?
Well, one of the things that I have I've been aware of for some time, is that I believe Black and brown children, in a lot of instances, they learn in specific ways. And so because I do music and arts, it makes me able to actually speak to them in different ways, be culturally responsive. So a lot of our kids are into like making beats, so like, for example, I've designed programs where we teach young Black boys how to make beats and do stuff like that on a computer in production. But in order to make beats, they first have to finish their homework and go through tutoring. So like the performing arts piece is what drives them, or that gives them the drive to want to finish the homework academically. And so we also use, we've had programming with like a program that actually teaches them how to code in computers, which takes math to code. So once again, we try to use different avenues and be as culturally responsive in those spaces. And so when I get in spaces of music and entertainment, it makes it easier to get to especially our young people, because people don't realize it, but most of our young people are entertained on a constant basis by their cell phone. It is constant activity on cell phones. So it becomes even more difficult academically to hold any child's attention if you're not culturally responsive and showing them how to get to the academics in a different way. So we use all kinds of different methods. We have actually done English classes where we taught the kids raps in order to learn English, all kinds of different things to make sure that we actually break the barrier between the child and the teacher. So we do all kinds of things to make sure we get to them.
Sounds like, Reverend, that you are really a skillful community master. You have had an opportunity you have opportunities daily and throughout the week and month to help so many people down in Southern California, especially the Pasadena area. Can you still talk to some of our Black and brown students and describe your college experience? Where did you attend college?
I actually went to University of California at Berkeley in 1994, a long time ago. I went there, and then during that time too, I met you, my professor, Professor Henderson, and I sang in the Young Inspirational Gospel Choir. And that's where I got a lot of my inspiration from, in the sense of I felt like you used the choir to get to us academically. And at the time that I came to UC Berkeley, it was less than 1% Black. And I remember even our counselors at that time, they were encouraging us to kind of like stick together, because, UC Berkeley is a great school, but a very difficult school when you start, especially in my major at the time was political science. So I was taking classes like empirical analysis, which is a very difficult class. So if you don't have a support system, you can kind of get lost in the shuffle. So the choir, for me, UC Berkeley's choir, gospel choir, was actually a haven for me. And I met other students that actually helped me with class and different things of that nature. And it kind of built a family. And then some of those people were in my classes. So we had study groups and all kind of stuff that was created from us being a part of the choir. So that was about 4 years. And then from there, I got a master's degree first in organizational leadership from Azusa Pacific. That's in Southern California. And then after I finished that one, I got another master's degree in divinity from Azusa Pacific. So those are the 3 degrees I got in terms of education.
So you're talking probably about anywhere between 8 to 10 years of just higher education as a student.
100%.
That's amazing. I won't even begin to talk about your impact as the student director of the UC Berkeley Gospel Choir, which we call the Young Restoration Gospel Choir. That would be another show, but your impact was just phenomenal and life-changing. So I am proud of you. Can you describe your work that you, when you do your activist work in the community, where you research and find different methodologies and methods to help young people and just the community in general? I'm sure you come in contact with the local politicians and council people and mayors and senators and all those things. And as a published author and entertainer, how are you able to use all those skills together to support your activist work in the community?
Well, I think one of the things that I've learned from over the years is that every environment has a language. And Robert Greenleaf says it this way, that communication is not what you say, but communication is what the person receives. And so what I've learned, and I learned that just from academic settings, being able to go in and out amongst different spaces and places. So in Pasadena, I understand from when I was in school, we talked about stuff like gentrification and different things like that, because my minor was in city planning at UC Berkeley, which is the reason why I got into nonprofit work to begin with, because I wanted to help to have discussion and conversation and to be a bridge with people who could not speak the language for themselves. In Northwest Pasadena is where most of our Black and brown students and people live. And right now, presently, because of the prices and different things, there are a lot of our community that's being pushed out. And so knowing kind of some of the avenues, one of the groups, I give you a prime example, is called the CCC, and it's the Community Clergy Coalition. And that is a meeting that we do every single month. It's very unique in the way we do it, because it is pastors in our community, the fire department, the health department, it is the city manager, the city planner, the police department, the sheriff's department. All those departments are that we all meet once a month, and the purpose of that meeting is for us to speak about issues that actually are going on in Pasadena. For example, we had a young Black man that got into a situation with the police, and he actually was running from the police, and he got shot in his back while he was running. So it's in times like that where those kinds of meetings and knowing the language, because our community was in an uproar in Northwest Pasadena. And so we as pastors, we as community leaders became the bridge between the police force and also our community, being able to go and sit with the police officers and to make demands and requests for how we want our city and the Northwest Pasadena to actually be policed, and to make sure that our people are treated fairly. So all of my experiences academically has given me and informed me about different languages and how do I speak on behalf of our people in different environments and in different ways. And so I think knowing languages is important. There is a way that you approach city councils and things of that nature. There's a way that you approach just different environments, and when you speak to the community, there's a different language. So knowing the languages, I think, is pivotal. And so academic experience has definitely helped with that.
Now, as a father, I'm told that you have a wonderful son by the name of Noah, and I'm sure as you have helped other students of color that you are instilling in your own son the value of higher education. Tell us what is that like for just not your own son, your wonderful son, I should say, but just how is it when you do seminars and work at the church and encourage many of your high school students to really begin to start talking about college? Because I believe you told me your son was somewhere around 15, 16 years old. And so he's probably going to be looking at college, I'm assuming, or trade or some high level interest, because I cannot imagine him not having a brilliant mind as his father has one. So tell me, how does all your knowledge, how has it helped you as a father and still as a supporter of higher learning?
Interesting question. I mean, because I think my experience with, I want to say, Gen Y and Z, they're very different in the way they process information. And so what I noticed with my son Noah, who was 16 years old, trying to get him focused on first finding something he's interested in first. And after finding something he's interested in, then connecting higher education to what he's interested in. And so like right now, the road that we were on before, because at first my son is 6'1", so at first basketball was a thing for him, right? So he was talking about going to like a D1 school like North Carolina, but then basketball was off the table. So when basketball was done, off the table, he started to want to do music. So now our conversation is really pushing towards, okay, if music is the thing you're interested in, then how do we bridge the gap with higher education? And processing now the power of the junior college as a stepping stone or in between before he goes into a 4-year college. And so processing the general education that would be needed for him. So we're looking into like Glendale Community College. He's also looking into Citrus. Citrus has a better music program. Our area has one of the better music programs in our area. And so he's processing a junior college first to get his GEs and then move into something like more of a 4-year college. And I think it's a good idea for him. But speaking of other kids, that's kind of what I've noticed is finding the interest and then connecting higher learning with the interest that they have. When I was coming up, I was interested in community, and I was also interested in city planning and architecture. So finding something that connected to that, I think, was important. It wasn't until I made that connection that college became easier for me. It's much easier when you can connect interests with higher learning. Wow,
that's a powerful response. Thank you. You know what? With so many different skills, who influenced you to become, I call you a professional pluralist, a person with so many areas of skills, and you're good at them.
I appreciate that. I do.
Who influenced you to really develop fully so many areas of skill and knowledge as you travel through the world?
I call you Pops, but Professor, as you know, I feel like when I was 17, 18 years old at UC Berkeley, being a part of what you were doing, I think was a primary influence for me, because I got a chance to watch you in all the areas, as a father, as an entrepreneur, as a choir director musically. You yourself are a pluralist, and that was the thing that was in front of all of us. And I think most of us that sing in that choir, a lot of us have a pluralist life because that was what was presented at the time. And I think the thing is that even when you say pluralist, I think it's important that people understand that what you always taught us all was have a focus, almost like a tree, have a focus that the branches can grow off of. So I would like to think of myself as having, I have a pretty good focus on purpose and vision, and then everything that I do is like branches off of that. And I think that's kind of how I approach life, because I saw you do it that way, is what are the things that I'm good at, but what is my mantra? What is my stance? What do I believe I'm here for? And I think that everything that I do kind of stems around people being whole. And when I say that, I don't mean just church whole. I'm talking about physically, spiritually, financially, mentally, emotionally, people being whole. And if that's my mantra, then how do I now demonstrate? How do I live that life out? So me being a pastor helps me to live that life out. Me being a producer helps me to live that life out. Me being a community activist helps me to live that life out. So that's the way I process. That's the way I think of things.
Well, you know what? First of all, thank you for the commendations. I appreciate you. I deeply love you, as the nation knows, and I'm proud of you. When I think in terms of you as a pastor and becoming the senior pastor, my heart is so excited for you. Because to me, working as a pastor seems to be your, I would say, your foundation in the ground.
Yeah.
It's where the tree is rooted, planted. And then from that, all the different branches, you just happen to have an enormous amount of different skills, but they all kind of work together to help improve the lives of people. But in your own words, what are some significant pastoral accomplishments that you've accomplished at your church and community, Victory Full Gospel Baptist Church in Pasadena?
Okay. I think one of the things that I'm proud of is we do a Christmas program every year. That Christmas program now has evolved to, I want to say, one of the largest events in our city. And we went from, just doing it at our church, and now this year we'll be at the Ambassador. And the reason why I think that's important is not because of the performance that we do, even though I believe the performance is one of the best performances, especially in our area. The thing that I think makes me say that is because every year we always give to a cause. Last year we did a kid like Andon, and it was Andon is one of our members' children, and he has autism, and so we actually spent a lot of time doing stuff for kids who are neurodivergent. And I think that was something that I realized, is that when you build a platform that's larger, then you can actually execute something to actually help people. We also, the year before that, we gave money. I went to Nigeria, and we're building a hospital in Nigeria for kids, because although Nigeria is one of the biggest, most populated countries in Africa, it also has the least amount of medical assistants in hospitals, which is amazing, because most of our doctors come from Nigeria. And so it's been interesting to take stuff and to build a platform. So what I realized is building platforms is not for you just to stand on and to benefit from. But when you build a platform, I believe that we all have a responsibility to make the world a better place when we do so. So anything that I do at Victory Bible Church, any profile, any building of a stage that we get, whatever we do, however big it is, I understand the purpose of it is to make the world a better place, and that's what we are.
Wow. Sounds like it's a wonderful congregation. And I first want to give homage to Bishop Milton White for his many years of leadership as he retired this year, and you take on the full-time helm. I love him dearly as well. He's been a great man of influence in your life, and so as a person who loves you so much, I want to thank him. I also want to give a special thanks to the memory of your father and your mother, Pastor and Mrs. DeCuir, because when I met you, I always tell you that you are a combination of God's gift. God took all the greatest tools from both of them and rested inside of you. So I just am so proud of you, and I'm so honored to have this opportunity to speak with you. I have just a couple of other questions. I know that you are a published author as well. Yes. Of all of your books that you've written, what do you feel is your most impactful creative work?
It's funny you say that. I would say the one I feel pretty confident about. There's two on Amazon now. One is called Steps to Answer Prayer. The other one is How to Fill a Room When No One Knows Your Name. I really like that one. That book kind of focuses on kind of everything that I saw you do, and I just kind of put it in a book form. And I came up with principles that I usually give to artists when they're trying to build something, but it also works for anything. Like, just it has some very basic principles that I've seen you do 100 times over. I really like that one. But the one I'm putting out, it'll be out in March. It's called In Our Own Eyes. This is one that is dear to my heart because I believe that it has stuff in the book that will really, really revolutionize the way people think, because I'm taking a passage of scripture and I'm humanizing it about the children of Israel coming out of Egypt. But the reason why it's important, there's one part of it, I think it's Numbers 13:33. When they went to go see and spy out the promised land, they came back and they said, we look like grasshoppers in our own mind. So because we feel like grasshoppers to us, then we also are grasshoppers to them. And I noticed that people spend a lot of time in this life shrinking because they think they're grasshoppers in their own mind. And so this book that's coming out is my endeavor to encourage people not to be grasshoppers in their own mind, to stretch their minds and to believe that they can actually accomplish something that's bigger, because there will be giants in every profession and everything that we go through. There'll be something already in a space. But what does it look like for us to rise above our own inadequacies and the way that we feel about ourselves? What does it look like for us to elevate our mindset and to expand our capacities so that we can actually embrace the things that has been intended for us? And that's what that book is about. And so I'm excited about that one that's coming out in March.
Well, I'm excited for you, and please remind me so we can help to publish that book for you and to get people to purchase and to spread the good news. As an African-American male that's accomplished so much in your life, I love the fact that everything that you've done is through a framework of humility, class, and you have a lot of ethics in your character, a lot. And you are a man of faith, but a man of wisdom and artistry and so many different things. But you had to have faced some challenges with so many gifts. How have you dealt with facing the challenges as a man of color to get where you're presently going? You're going to become pastor of one of the most impactful churches in Pasadena, but you still have all these other skills that you will continue to work alongside of your main responsibility as a senior pastor.
One of the things I think is, I remember my dad was a very hard worker, and grew up watching him. My dad I called him the Energizer Bunny, because he seemed like he never got tired, but he was also very focused. And the thing that I learned from him, yes, there have been a lot of difficulties, and there have been a lot of things that have happened, in my life, even down to my parents recently transitioning or dying, and those things are hard. People deal with grief and all of those type of things. But when I think about the example that was set before me, and how my father, I watched him build ecosystems, and what he would do is that he would build ecosystems that actually were there were things that he built around the ecosystem that protected the ecosystem, his ecosystem, from, all the hardships of life. So he would strategically put things and put people in places so that when life happened, those things still rolled, whether he was all the way in or whether he had to take some time to breathe or whatever. And so what I have figured out is that now I'm building the ecosystem. The ecosystem has music, it has the church, it has my coaching business, and it's the ecosystem that I'm building. So now there's a book called The E-Myth Revisited. How do I now set the ecosystem up to where it functions like a machine? And what I'm learning is that systematic thinking is the way to go, especially when you have multiple things, because when you have systematic thinking and you set systems in place, systems don't have emotion. they run, So when you build the right systems, then those systems now can help you maintain when things happen. So it's not to say that those things don't happen, not to say that things don't affect you emotionally, but when you have systems that work, they help you to survive through those times. So
wow. That's a message of strength and perseverance for our protected classes. Do you get an opportunity to share that message of having communities of support or people or structures in place to operate when whether you're there or not?
Yes.
It doesn't mean that you don't have your impact, but you set it up, and sometimes you may have to take 2 or 3 days to sort of rejuvenate. You may have a passing of a loved one, but the system still operates.
Yes.
Do you talk to your young people in your church, or as you lecture to gangs? And I know you've done a lot of work in terms of gang violence and cutting down gang violence. You have so many CEO DeCuir, I'll call you now. You have so many different areas. It's just a blessing. But have you had a chance to talk to other young people about how those strengths or those principles can improve one's life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is what I would say to any leader of color. It's vital and important. In the church, we call it discipleship. In more secular terms, we call it mentorship. Both are the same. In that you have to identify young people that are rising stars, that you see something in, and then you must download the portions that God has afforded you. I believe you download those portions of you into those people. So like I have young people that I've mentored for a very long time that are now activists, that are now doing things. I have a gentleman now, his name is Brandon Lamar. I got Brandon Lamar when he was 15 years old. Brandon Lamar now is in his 30s and he's running for councilman in the city of Pasadena. So he's now about to be the councilman. So whenever I'm doing activist stuff, I usually run it through him because he's very, very, he's even more entrenched in all of the stuff that's happening in Pasadena, even more than I am. But at 15 years old, when I was doing a lot of gang prevention stuff, he was right with me at 15. And he watched me for years, but now he surpassed me and he's doing much better. But this is the power of mentorship. The only way that I think communities can progress and move forward is when leadership or leaders of color take the time to download into younger people. That is a vital thing. So in every situation, even like right now as we speak, as I'm speaking to you, there's a young man at my studio right now who desires to do what I do, and he's being trained by my partner right now as we speak. So I'm always reaching for younger people to download into so that they can now carry the torch and go further than I've ever gone.
Wow. Well, you know what? You have discussed so many wonderful principles. As you pray to the Lord, as you work with city councils, and as you work with our artists and high-level recording artists and professionals and other pastors, discuss some of your future goals, some future projects, and some innovation that you may have.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I have been working on going into January, and I think this thought kind of applies to also in secular environments, but I call it the 3T church, right? But I think the 3T method, if I was not in church, I would say 3T method, right? This is one of the methods right now that I have been crafting moving into next year, because I think it's important. So these 3Ts are this. The first thing is transformational. Any experience, whether it be community or whether it be religious, any experience that people are involved in, it is important that it impacts them. When you don't have impact, it's hard to change people's lives when they don't feel impact. So that requires skill, that requires practice, that requires some kind of academic prowess. When things are transitional, that means when things are transformational, that means a person can come into your environment, can be impacted by you, and because of the impact, they now allow you now to speak into their lives. That was kind of the similar experience that I had when I joined Young Inspirational Gospel Choir at Berkeley. I met you, and it had an impact on me because the choir was impactful. It was in the Smithsonian Institute. So that whole thing was transformational. It changed my life. So when something does not change a person's life, it's hard to speak into that person or to get them to transform. So the first T is transformational. The second one, the second T, it has to transcend culture. There is so many different cultures that people have, and especially we have a culture now in our westernized culture that I have lots of opinions about. But when I say transcend culture, there's some things that culture is teaching my son, because my son is in Gen Y and Z. So because of that, he's being shaped by some of the culture. So I have to figure out ways, how do I as a church, how do I as a CEO, how do we as a community, how do we transcend culture? Because not all the values that I was taught by my mother and father are antiquated. How do we take those same values that my mother taught us, and how do we transcend culture so that our kids don't miss out on some of the things that's happening? So I want to transcend culture in a lot of different ways. I want to rise above it and still present some traditional values in new ways, right? And then the last thing is transitional. One of the ways you transcend culture is you must be transitional. Is the message that you have, can it be packaged and taught to every different level? So what I tell them at my church organization, I say a family should be able to walk in our church with infant children, teenage children, and everybody find their place. We should have ministry, and we should have programming that helps that child from the toddler age all the way to adult age. If you don't have that, then the church is not transitional, the organization is not transitional, whether it is secular or religious. Your organization must be transitional, so that the next group is almost like a machine. It just keeps going around in circles. It's like a cycle where you're cycling new people and you're taking them all the way through their lives. Those are the three things that I have been really honing and focusing on, so that entering into January, all of my organizations, my whole ecosystem understands that the 3T method is something that I'm focused on, and that's where we're at.
CEO Reverend DeCuir, before I give my final thoughts, I want to ask you if you have any final thoughts you would like to share, or ideas you want to communicate to our digital world about
Absolutely.
all the wonderful things that you've done.
I actually, I will actually want to give this quote that was life-changing and transformational for me to the world. Life brings us all lots of pain. But what I have now learned is that some things that we define as pain actually we should change the word from pain to effort, because really most of the stuff we call pain, a lot of things is just effort. Some things just takes more effort. So there was a wise man that told me this. He says, until the pain to change becomes greater than the pain to stay the same, he says, we will never change. And I feel like that I want to make sure that in my life and in all my preaching and all my influence and all my mentoring, that I get people to understand that change happens when people get tired of where they are. And so I want to admonish all of the teachers, all of the professors, all the academic community, is to be innovative so that people can find ways to change, because sometimes pain will keep people stuck. So we have to be innovative to help them pull themselves out, so they can actually have a different kind of pain, a pain that makes them change who they are.
Wow. Well, you know what? You've given us so much food to think about, but I want to share something. You know, I've had a wonderful career and very challenging career as an academic for many, many years. Professor Henderson has been around a long, long time. In the community college, the California State University, and the University of California at Berkeley, where I met you so many years ago. And in the community, and as a music minister of my church, the Pluralistic Baptist Church. But one of the things that I have realized is that people ask me all the time. I did a survey recently about how many courses I had taught at college in terms of full-time equivalency, and it was over 90 years of full-time teaching instruction. And people ask me, they say, how can you stay motivated that long, you know, almost 90 years? And I tell them the joy of what I've done has been watching the transformation of so many young people. I said that each of you transform me. You transform me to want to become better at what I do in order to continue to give and to share love and principles of growth and perseverance to students of color and people in general. And so it's just not transformational when the leader is able to impart that, but it's transformational when the leader watches people transform. It makes their life better. So my life has truly been transformed as I've watched you since about 17 or 18 develop into just an outstanding human being. As a pastor, as a professional artist, as a promoter, as a musician, as a social advocate, as an entrepreneur, as a father, but most of all, as a man of God and a person who has kept his heart rooted in the beauty of Christian principles that he originally started from the foundation from his mother and father. So I want to thank you on behalf of Professors for Life Incorporated for taking the time to come on this show. We are very excited about what's happening in your world, and I am positive that God and life and all the good things in life will continue to follow you, because you have to do well, because as I get older, I'm getting more crazy. Thank you once again for taking the time to interview with us this evening, and I wish you nothing but God's blessings in all that you do.
Thank you, Professor. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.